the way the case has played out, and you've now gone into the special committee, and you've now gone to that, it's very ad hoc. It's not a proper structure. There's no structure to protect our athletes. And again, we are reminded of this. And just going to Sarkar and coming out with this random, thing. It's a joke. It's a red herring. It's a smoke screen, whatever you call it. In 1997, the leading badminton players, including Prakash Padukone, gathered and protested about the Badminton Association of India. That was the first big one that had happened. And this is the second after so long, even though you've had incidents taking place across Indian sport of, a single athlete protesting. The hockey players, the women's hockey team has protested against about sexual harassment by a coach at one point. This would have been about more than 10, 15 years ago. But in the sense of coming out in the open, sitting, doing the Jantar Mantar protest, this is really unprecedented.
आज हमारे पास 5 से 6 लड़कियां आ गई हैं, अभी प्रूफ है हमारे पास में उनके साथ में जो हुआ है। हमें मजबूर ना किया जाए सबके सामने आने के लिए। अगर वो 2 मिनट मेरे सामने बैठ जाएं तो मैं हिंदुस्तान की हर जनता को चैलेंज करती हूँ, उनको मेरे सामने 2 मिनट दिखा दीजिए और वो आंखों में आंखें डाल के बोल दीजिए कि हमने कुछ गलत नहीं किया है।
Wrestling Federation of India elections are in about 2 months' time. I think the fact that leading athletes have come out in the open and protested at this point in time out of a clear blue sky is what has surprised people. Perhaps these players have come out with the confidence that they will be supported, that they won't be just eaten up and tossed to the side like dozens of athletes in India tend to get. Maybe something so terrible happened that just they lost their heads and said, we have to do this. I don't care. Like, let's burn the house if we have to, but let's at least try. Why the BJP has not done such to, taken action against Brij Bhushan in any form? We have to remember that all political parties, when they plant these people at the top of sports associations, they're there for a reason. And, they're there to sort of build their ground. And we've seen a lot of this in Olympic sports. And Brij Bhushan is perhaps an example. It's almost like he's an emblem of everything that is wrong about sports governance in the country. You don't need politicians in sport because their alternative that you need is a professional management system. The money that comes into federations, whether it's hockey, whether it's cricket, whether it's the wrestlers, like they said, the sponsorship comes in, but the athlete doesn't get the other end of the money. We don't know where that money goes. What makes women's sports even more vulnerable is that these are very, very young athletes, right? They're very, very young people, and they come into a situation where the coach and therefore and the official who the coach responds to, they are people. The power balance is completely off the charts. There's no chance that their lives and their careers and their futures depend on this, and these are very young women. And the second reason is that there is no proper grievance redressal mechanism in our sport. I mean, there are right now, you'll see, because of the Me Too, there are grievance redressal mechanisms and committees that are set up. But you've seen what happens when these cases come to it. What happens to the women that make the accusations? What happened to the most powerful men in all these fields? There's an organization based in Bangalore that's done a superb study on like a pilot study about women in sport, and they said that something like 72% of athletes that are in the target Olympic podium scheme are from the rural areas, right? So these people come from villages, come from homes of not any great economic status or wealth or anything of the sort, and they are thrown into this environment where you've got these men that are there, and they have to completely trust them, or what else do they do? So every time those stories come, it really worries you. With women, it's the question of hypoandrogenism. Are you woman enough? You know, in the case of what happened before Duti Chand stood up, I think Duti Chand standing up for herself and the Indian state fighting with her was a big landmark moment. There has been a tendency to simplify the female Indian athletes' situation. Their access to sport comes from a position of love, and these officials and these coaches turn it into something of terror and fear. And to think that these girls come through, you know, a lot of them come through and still just push through and make it. And what's happened with wrestling is that now there is this stars that have been created, and they have turned up and sat down in Jantar Mantar and said, "Listen to us," and people have come to listen to them. And that's what federation bosses don't want. They want athletes to be, there's a word in Urdu, mohtaj, to be dependent on them, to be thankful, to be touching their feet, to be saying, "You are great, sir." That's what they want.